What if we were lied to? What if the pristine Amazon rainforest isn't a miracle of nature, but the world's largest abandoned hardware? For decades, we were told the tribes of the Xingu were primitive hunter-gatherers. But as the trees fall and the LiDAR sensors pierce the canopy, a terrifying reality is emerging. We aren't looking at ruins. We are looking at a blueprint, a geometry so precise, it doesn't match a city. It matches a microchip. Welcome to the Silicon Forest. You were never supposed to see this map. In 2018, something quietly extraordinary happened over the Amazon. A drone pilot, flying a routine survey over Brazil's Acre state, noticed shapes on the ground that made him stop and look twice. At first glance, it was just land, burned, cleared, scarred by deforestation. But beneath that damage was something else. Something intentional. Carved into the earth were enormous geometric forms. Squares so clean they looked drawn with a ruler. Circles so precise they could have come straight from a compass. These weren't the kind of shapes nature accidentally makes. They were deliberate, measured, planned. We now call them geoglyphs. Archaeologists often describe them as ceremonial or ritual spaces, and maybe that explanation once felt sufficient. But when you really sit with the images, when you look at how these shapes connect, how pathways align, how angles repeat, you begin to feel that something doesn't quite add up. From the air, the patterns feel strangely familiar. The straight corridors resemble channels. The intersections feel like nodes. The whole layout brings to mind the internal design of modern systems we associate with information flow. Processors, circuits, logic boards. It's an unsettling comparison, but also a hard one to ignore. And that leads to an uncomfortable question. Why would a society we label as ancient invest such effort into layouts that demand mathematical precision? What purpose required this scale, this order, this discipline? The deeper researchers dig, the more fragile our neat historical timelines start to feel. Assumptions about what ancient people could or couldn't do begin to soften. Maybe history isn't as simple or as linear as we like to believe. Maybe some knowledge was lost, buried, waiting patiently beneath the soil for us to notice it again. And perhaps the most humbling thought of all is this: these shapes were never hidden. We just weren't ready to see them. Let's dive into something mysterious: the roads to nowhere. Archaeologists have uncovered massive highways, 60 feet wide, stretching for miles in perfectly straight lines. In the middle of a dense jungle, this sounds like madness, right? Unless it wasn't actually a road at all. In electrical engineering, these are called bus lines, paths specifically designed for high-speed data transfer. Now imagine this. Overlay the map of the Xingu region onto a 1970s motherboard. The connection points, those villages, align perfectly with the spots where transistors are located on a circuit board. Is that just a coincidence, or could the ancient people of the Amazon have been building a massive-scale machine? Now think about Terra Preta, the Black Earth. It's not just any soil. This is a man-made soil, packed with carbon and minerals that should naturally be there. It's a soil that acts like a semiconductor. So they weren't just living on the land, they were charging it. Consider that for a moment. The ancient people of the Amazon may have been using the land as a kind of biological computer. By creating electrical conductivity in the soil, they were essentially storing and transferring energy. These discoveries point to a far more complex system than we ever thought possible. Could it be that this civilization so long ago had access to a technology far ahead of its time? Or are we looking at the remnants of a lost high-tech society? It's in these moments that ancient knowledge collides with modern understanding, and everything we thought we knew about history starts to unravel. What if, just maybe, an advanced civilization once existed in the Amazon, leaving behind the traces of technology, we're only beginning to comprehend. There is a document locked away in the Vatican's vaults, manuscript 512. It's a relic from the 18th century, and it tells an astonishing tale. The discovery of a hidden city by Portuguese explorers in 1753. The explorers described this city in ways that seemed too fantastical to be true. They spoke of buildings that shone with a strange fire, as if they were alive with light, and streets laid out with what they called mathematical cruelty. The explorers tried to explain it, but their accounts were met with mockery. Scholars dismissed them as mere fantasies, or worse, as fabrications. But today, our modern technology is proving them right. Satellite imagery has uncovered vast, intricate structures hidden deep in the Amazon jungle. These aren't just isolated settlements. They're cities, complete with complex layouts that could have supported populations of 50,000 people or more, nestled in places where we once thought only wilderness existed. The scale of these discoveries is mind-blowing. But here's where it gets even more bizarre. The cities aren't built the way you'd expect. There are no traditional features we associate with human civilization. No bustling markets, no town squares, no public spaces for gatherings. Instead, what we find are repeated, fractal patterns throughout the entire region. It almost seems like the landscape is designed like a giant circuit board, with interconnected pathways and geometric precision. It doesn't look like a place meant for human life. It looks like an array. A massive, Earth-sized antenna. Could this be the answer to a centuries-old mystery? Was the Amazon, in its ancient form, a machine? A device built not for people, but for something far greater? And if so, who turned it off? And why? These questions are more than just academic. They open the door to a startling possibility. That the ancient world may have been far more technologically advanced than we've ever given it credit for. And the truth might just be hidden in the very landscape we've overlooked for centuries. Critics are quick to dismiss all of this with a wave of the hand. It's just ditches, they say. Simple earthworks. Primitive construction. End of story. But here's the problem with that explanation. Those critics can't explain what happens when you actually go there. At many of these sites, compasses don't behave normally. Needles spin. Readings drift. Electronic equipment malfunctions or shuts down entirely. These places aren't just archaeologically strange. They're magnetically anomalous. And that's not speculation. That's measurement. Now listen to the local legends. Indigenous stories speak of the Boitata, the great serpent of fire. A glowing entity that lived beneath the ground, moved like lightning through the soil, and ate the shadows. For centuries, this was dismissed as myth. But if you translate that language into modern terms, what does it sound like? A massive electrical discharge. Energy moving underground. Something powerful enough to alter the environment around it. So here's a thought that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. What if the Amazon wasn't a dense forest 2,000 years ago? What if it was something else entirely? What if it was a global power hub? A vast interconnected system designed to generate, store, or transmit energy on a scale we no longer recognize? And what if that system failed? Because when large-scale technology breaks down, it doesn't just stop quietly. It overheats. It destabilizes. It melts down. And what do engineers build around overheating systems? Cooling systems. Maybe the jungle didn't simply grow over the machine. Maybe the jungle is the cooling system. A living, breathing layer designed, intentionally or accidentally, to stabilize something beneath it. Something that never fully shut down. Because here's the unsettling part. Researchers still detect faint electromagnetic activity in these regions. Something is still humming, still resonating, still alive in a way we don't fully understand. And that leads to the final dangerous question. If we finish the map, if we reconnect the nodes, if we plug the so-called silicon forest back in, what exactly are we waking up? Because whatever was built here, it wasn't small. It wasn't simple. And it may not be as dormant as we think. Something is still down there, beneath the roots, waiting. As the loggers move in and the trees come down, something far more important than nature is being erased. They aren't just clearing land. They are dismantling what may be the oldest data storage system on Earth. The Amazon isn't just a forest, it's a record. A living archive. And every acre that disappears is another line of that record wiped clean. Think about it this way. If the Amazon really is a machine, then the forest itself is the interface. The circuits aren't made of metal and plastic. They're made of soil, carbon, geometry, and biology. When a section is destroyed, it's not just deforestation, it's data loss. Permanent deletion. No backup. No restore point. We are racing against time to decode what some researchers are now calling the Silicon Forest. A massive, planet-scale system whose logic is written into the land itself. Roads that aren't roads. Cities that don't function like cities. Patterns that repeat with machine-like precision. And all of it slowly being erased before we even understand what we're looking at. Because here's the terrifying part. Once the system is gone, we may never find the on switch again. They want you to believe it's just mud. Just trees. Just random ruins left behind by primitive cultures. That belief is comfortable. Safe. It doesn't challenge anything. But comfort has a way of blinding us. So don't take their word for it. Look at the maps. Look at the satellite imagery. Look at the repeating geometry, the alignments, the impossible scale. Nature doesn't do this by accident. And humans don't do this without purpose. The truth isn't buried underground. It isn't hidden in some lost manuscript or secret vault. It's right there, programmed into the earth itself. Written in soil, shadow, and structure. The real question isn't whether this system existed. The real question is, what were they trying to power? A communication network? An energy grid? Something designed to interact with the planet? Or something beyond it? I want to know what you think. Drop your theory in the comments. Because this is a conversation we need to have now, before the last circuit breaks and the signal goes dead.